So the code part, code, yeah, so I get a new file. Old one, last time we did this, but we need to start a new file here. All right. So let me explain, in order to help you understand better. So the method I used, so I need to let you know my logic, right? My logic. First, this part, this block, that's the database connection. Connection part. So that's pretty much standard. Standard. For every PHP file, when we need to connect to the database, we do this way. Because this part, so it's a standard way to connect the database. Sometimes people put it in another PHP file, then include. So every time, so here we do the copy paste way. Another way is sometimes people stored in a file, in a PHP file, okay, in a PHP file. Then include it. When needed, okay? When you need to use it, then you include it. So that's very convenient. Here we just pass the basic parameters. So these 4 parameters, you need to pass it to this function, okay? So here username, password. After we install, by default, if you do not change the password of the root user, usually we do not change. But sometimes some people may change. So then you put the right, correct username, password, and the correct database name, so you can get it connected. This variable, that's the object, connection object. So when you need to run the queries, you pass this connection object. So here, look at later, when we run the query, you need to pass the connection object. So this is the relatively new version of the MySQL query. Here you see MySQL I. There is an I after MySQL. There is an older version. It uses MySQL. There is no I underscore query. Older version. Then you do not pass the connection object. So you just use the query string. So no connection object. So then the older version, not as good as the new one. New one, when you pass the connection object, then you can, in one PHP file, you can access multiple databases. Because for each database, you have one connection object. Then you can pass different database object to your query function. Then you can access multiple databases. The old way, because it only takes the current default database connection object, you can only access one database object. Okay? Yeah. Question? Yes. Yeah. You use multiple con1, con2, con3 that way, because then you can come back to use, right? If you reuse that, the old one is gone.
Like it would still work. I could see why.
Yeah. Yeah. If you do not need to use the old one,
Yeah.
then you just replace
Yeah.
the old one. Yeah, good. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's one small difference. Yeah, because sometimes pay attention here which version used. Yeah. Now we want to use the I version. So MySQL, the I version, right? Yeah. But some people still use the non-I version. Yeah. Some people still use the old non-I version. Then this is the important difference. Yeah. How to use your databases. There is a important difference. Yeah. All right. Then, because after you create a database connection object, the connection object usually it needs to use some resource. So at the end, when you complete everything, you want to close the, call this close function. So you want to release the memory occupied by this database connection object to save memory resource. Yeah, so that's the good practice way for programming. Yeah. So all right, so that's the database connection part. After that, then we work on our data. Yeah. First, this part, I create an array. So here, PHP array. Yeah. So this is a 1D array. From the array name, you can see we store the table names. Yeah. Table names in this array. Yeah. Then you can see the way we assign array elements. You use empty bracket. You do not specify the index number. Yeah, so in PHP, in this order, the index 0, 1, use the natural order, 3, 4. Okay? Yeah. Because in that way, you do not need to specify index number. Yeah. But you may feel, it's not a big difference. Yeah. But sometimes, especially in a for loop, this way more convenient, because you do not need to think about what's the index value. You just use the default natural incremental index numbers. Yeah. So this kind of thing. Yeah. Then the reason, so here you may ask me, so why we store the table names in an array, right? So here, why we use an array to store all the table names. Yeah. One important reason is, think about, here we have 5 tables, right? Total 5 tables. Then we need to access each of the 5 tables. There is a efficiency issue here. So when you access 5 tables, do you want to write accessing code 5 different times? If you do in that way, because table 1, you write specific code, access table 1. Table 2, you write specific. Yeah, some people do that way, but that's not efficient. Here, the reason is very simple. Yeah. So here the question. All right. Yeah, question. Answer here. Yeah. So we want to use one unified way to access all the tables. Yeah. So you don't need to write similar code 5 different times. That's not efficient. We only write the code 1 time. Then we treat table as a variable. Yeah. So we treat each table name as a variable. Okay? Every time we just choose different values, one of the 5 values in this array. Yeah. So specifically, look at here, $table_name, the variable. Its value is this table array. Then remember we have another variable, $mn, to choose the right table number, the index. Index value 0 corresponds to first table, index 1, second, and so on. Yeah. In this way, this variable stores the current table name. Okay, so when we run the query, yeah, so this is the query string, but here we use the table variable name. So you can see we can change our table name easily by this $mn parameter. $mn parameter. See? Yeah. So then it's the same code. Access all these 5 tables using the same code. Yeah. Yeah. So in other places, we all do in this way, everywhere. Okay. So the whole project. So we use this way. Yeah. All right. So then we create another array, fields, $fields. That array, we use it to store all the fields of the current table. Yeah. Yeah. Current table. Yeah, because after we choose the current table name, follow. So we need to display all the fields of the current table in this array, 1D array. This is 1D array, right? Then this OPT option array, because we need to display, yeah, so here we need to display titles of all the tables. Yeah. Here you can see the titles of all the tables slightly different from original table name. So original table name there, yeah, because original table name, so you have to use the exact name. But here for title, so we want to display to our users, the natural way for the titles for our users. Yeah. Because our users, they do not need to know the table names, table fields, yeah. The specific table names. They do not need to know that. Yeah. So here for more user-friendly, so we make our titles better for the ordinary users, not for programmers, for the general audience. Yeah. So we use another array to store the titles, yeah, for display purpose. All right. Then we create a 2D array. So here, 2D array. Yeah. So here I'll put a 2D data, 2D, so let you realize this array supposed to be a 2D array. Yeah. So when you access the data, you should use it as a 2D array. Yeah. All right, so that's the data, the table data. Yeah. So we store in this 2D array. So here then we retrieve the data. So this statement retrieve data, but we specify order, okay, order by ascending order, descending order, based on the DIR, $dir value, 0, 1, 0 ascending, 1 descending. Yeah. So here you can see, yeah. So this query, we use it for all 5 tables, yeah, based on the value of DIR value. Yeah. All right, then we need to retrieve data. Yeah. So this block retrieve the table data. The current table data. Yeah, here, 2D. So you need to use nested loops, outer loop, while loop, inner for each loop. Outer, so you access row by row, right? Yeah. So every time you use this line variable, you retrieve one row. Yeah, one row. So the $result2, that object stores 2D array data, yeah, table data, 2D array. Yeah. But each time here, you access one row in one iteration of this while loop. Then inside, you use a for each loop, so you do another round, iteration, retrieve the data for all the columns, okay, all right. So then, yeah, so this way, yeah. So after you finish this for each loop, you increment the I value, so you move to the next row. Yeah. After this while loop, you get all your data stored in that data to the ARR, to the array. Yeah. Next, we display data. Yeah. So the data display, we use table. Yeah. Here you can see we use table to display. Yeah. So, some simple one. Yeah. So we try to make our code as simple as possible. So we do not use any fancy way. Yeah. All right, so here, table first, we need to display the top line, so that's the table line, or we treat it as a menu bar. Yeah, top line, we treat it as a menu bar. So menu bar. This menu bar, we just list all the tables. Okay, yeah. Each one is a hyperlink. in hyperlinks. Clickable, so we can access each table. You click the hyperlink. Yeah. All right. So here you can see for the hyperlink, because the value OPTAR, so the title of each table, that's the anchored by URL. So this is the URL. Okay, yeah. The URL to access this table. The URL, because this unit input.php, the current file, okay, the same file, the current file. After that, the question mark, remember? After the question mark, we specify parameter value. Yeah. Parameter value, okay? Yeah. So this part, after question mark, we specify the parameter value in the key value pair format or name value pair. Yeah, sometimes people call key value pair, but here another way people call name dash value pair. So the name, parameter name, MN is the parameter name. Okay, parameter name. Name. Then the value, we use PHP expression. PHP expression, that's the the value of $I, that value. Yeah. So then in that way, when you click it, you access this URL. Okay, so you call this URL. Then the result, so the URL, you change the value of MN. That means you change the table. You select this table, so then you display the data corresponding to this table. That logic, okay? Yeah, pretty straightforward. So that's the title part. After that, you need to display the table data. All right. Table data, first you need to display field names. So this for loop display all the field names in one row. So here you have another table, okay? Yeah. So the title, one table. Then you start another table to display table data. Then after the field part, next you need to display content of the data. So it's a 2D content here. Display 2D content. Okay, yeah, here. Then 2D content here. So you can see this block is pretty big. So this block actually stop right here, 2D content. This is the body, table data body, in this way. Yeah. Because it's a 2D, right? 2D, so you use nested for loop. Outer for loop, inner for loop. Okay? Outer for loop, so you access each row. Access each row. Inner for loop, each column. All the columns for the current row. All right. Yeah. So then, so here let me explain this part. This is a table cell, right? A table cell. Yeah. All right. A table cell, so for row row number, okay? So the row number for row, that $J, that corresponds to the row number. Dollar for row J and column $I, right? Or $K, right? Sorry, not $I, $K. See, we use two index variables to control row number and a column number. Yeah. So here, so you access the data, okay? Yeah. When you have a row number and a column number, you can access data. But because this table cell, later we need to modify, we need to access this table cell. Then we use an ID. Remember in CSS, we use the ID. We need to define this ID. This is between the double quotes. This is the way we form the ID. In this ID, we use capital R, then the row number value, and the capital C, the column number value, in this way, because we need to access this cell later. How do we access? We need to use this ID to access, okay? This ID to access the cell. Because later when we need to edit this row, we need to retrieve the data and display the editable value in this table cell. So we need to use this ID. Yeah. All right, so for here we do preparation. So let you know the logic, why we do in this way, the logic. Okay, all right. Then we need to associate an edit button. So here, so look at this element, type, input type button. So here we need to create an edit button. So this is the edit button. Each row, we associate an edit button to each row. And in this edit button, on click, we call this JavaScript function, edit this row. Then we pass the, here, yeah, right, yeah. So here, this part, yeah. This part a little hard to understand. Let me explain, because let me explain this logic. Otherwise, yeah. So this is a little hard to understand. Okay, a little hard to understand. So let me explain the logic here. Otherwise, so you may get confused. Why are we doing this way, right? Yeah. So here the question. Yeah. Let me explain my design idea here, why I use this way. First, my purpose. Let me tell you my purpose first. Okay? Yeah. My purpose here, I want to identify this row. Yep, so that's my main purpose here. How to identify a row? Because when you need to edit one particular row, you need to identify it first. Okay? Yeah. But to identify, we know one easy way is the, use the primary key is the easy way. Okay? use the primary key, but here I didn't use the primary key because there are two tables without primary key. Yeah. So in this database, there are two tables. Do not have any primary key. Okay? Yep. Without primary, how do you identify it? Yeah. Here, I use the way. So here, the way I use it, may not. So you may feel, not, strange a little bit. Yeah, you may feel. Here, I use the. Here I use the data of the first two columns. Here I use the data from the first two columns. Yeah. All right, data first two columns. And I found all these 5 tables, the data of the first 2 columns is sufficient to identify the rows. Okay? That property, I use that property. Okay? Yeah. Sufficient to identify the rows for all 5 tables. With primary key, when you have a primary key, it's redundant, okay? Yeah, because if you have primary key, you don't need 2 columns. 1 column is enough. But without primary key, then you need to use data of two columns, the first. So here you can see I pass. So when I call the function edit this row JavaScript function, then I pass 2 variables. The first variable, data of the first column. The second parameter, the data of the second column for the current row. In this way, yeah. So in the JavaScript function, when we receive it, yeah, so the 2 string values, yeah, so 2 string values. Then we send it to the server-side PHP program for processing. Yeah. Send these 2 pieces of data to the back-end PHP processing file. Then the PHP processing file can use these 2 pieces values, can access current table, yeah, because we know the current table. And also, which row? Yeah. Using these 2 pieces of data, we know we can run a query. We can retrieve the values of the whole row, using these 2 pieces of data. All right, yeah. So then the edit button. So this edit button. All right, yeah. So this part, yeah. So I explain, yeah. Otherwise, so when you try to understand, this place could be very hard, yeah, if I do not explain, yeah, my design idea. Yeah. All right, so then I want to show you the JavaScript function, this edit this row function. Okay, edit this row function. Because when you click the button, you call this JavaScript function. This JavaScript function needs to call back-end PHP file to send the data of the whole row back to the this display file, this user interface file. Yeah. All right, so let's go to this JavaScript function. Yeah. Look at this. Added this row, okay? Added this row. Yeah. we pass three parameters. First parameter, data of the first column, data second column, U, look at the U. The third parameter, yeah, here. The row number, right? This J, this is the row number. Right, row number, okay? Row number, here. Yeah. So U, yeah. All right. Yeah. So then here, yeah. All right, so another thing, yeah, because here, this place, actually, I use Ajax technology, okay, Ajax technology, yeah. So let me, I need to give you an introduction to Ajax later, so then, you know, so this is the Ajax method, technique, okay? Yeah. Oh, technology, small technology. It's a very small technology, but very important. I need to give you an introduction of this technology later, okay? All right. Here, you just know we need to retrieve the data, so we need to form the URL, this URL, okay? URL, then field 1, FD1, with value X, FD2, field 2, with value Y, okay? Then we need to also tell the table number, yeah. Yeah, which table? Yeah. Although here U. So did I use U? Yeah, all right. Yeah, the reason I need to use U, because I need to access the cell, right? Access cell. U, I need to use when I access individuals, table cells. Yeah. All right. The code detail, after I explain Ajax, so then we can understand this function completely. Yeah. That Ajax, yeah, today I do not want to spend too much time. Oh, wow, really? Yes. Yeah. Half of the class. Yeah, half of the class. All right. Yeah. So here, you know, we need to send a request to this particular URL. Okay. So this URL, we need to send a request to that. Then after the data return, then we display, okay? So we find a way, so this is the way to display data, okay? Display. Return the data. After I explain Ajax, then I will use this function to help you understand Ajax. All right. Yeah, so that's the edit button. Yeah. Yeah. And similar the update button, another button. Okay? Update button. Yeah. But edit button, update button, so here you can see one div element. This div element is used for the edit button. Another div element is used for update button. And one div, I use display property value block. That means you view it. Block, so you can view it, right? This one, this second display value none, so you hide it. You do not want to see it. Although you make it available, but you do not display it. So you hide it with this display value none. Yeah. But in your JavaScript function, you can switch the value. So you can switch block value to non-value, so you hide it. Then you can switch the non-value back to block, so you want to view it. Yeah. So in that way, so look at here. In this, here we change this edit. Yeah. So here we use the ID, yeah, edit button, that ID. We change its value from block to none. So we hide it. Then for the update button, this place, we change the display value from none to block. So then we view it, okay, in this way. Similarly, for the update this row, then we change in the opposite way, okay? Update, so here you can see, yeah, so we change, look at here, opposite way, yeah. Where is it? Yeah, here, okay, here. So we change just the opposite, okay? Yeah, none back to block, block back to none, okay? Yeah, yeah, opposite. Okay, yeah. So here you get idea. All right, so then here. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I want to stop because I already used a lot of time. Yeah. So today I want to just do this much. Okay. Hopefully help to understand the code better. Yeah. Yeah. Although we have some more to understand, but I don't want to use the whole class. So at least I have half an hour. So let's do our part C. Yeah. So we can do the complex query. Yeah. All right. So let me jump to PowerPoint slides. Yeah. All right. Half an hour, so we can do 3 or 4 slides. At least. Yeah. All right, yeah. C.1 exists function. Yeah. So this function is very simple but very useful. Sometimes we can use this exists function to write some very complex queries. Yes. First, let's look at the meaning, definition of this function, exists function in SQL. Check whether the result of a correlated nested query, inner query. Yeah. So now we know the meaning of what is the correlated nested inner query from our previous lecture. Yeah, you know the meaning of that. So you'll pass an inner query. So this inner query, because it uses some variable, some field value from outer query. So it's a correlated query. Okay, yeah. But you want to use this function to check if this correlated inner query returns empty content or not. If it's empty, then false, right? Yeah, because it exists from the meaning. If it's not empty, then this function returns true value. If it's empty, it returns false value. So then based on this value, then you can, do some appropriate work. Yeah. So that's the idea. Yeah, pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but very useful. Yeah. This exists function. Yeah. True, yeah, at least one tuple, so not empty. False. notable, empty. All right. Similarly, there is a negation of this function, not exist function. Yeah. Because sometimes it's more convenient. We use not exists version. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. So true, it's empty. Not exist. True, it's empty. Very easy to understand. False, not empty, just opposite. Yeah. Yeah. So these two versions. Yeah. So very useful. All right. Exists and not exists are typically used in conjunction with the correlatedness query. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's look at one example. So we use exists function. All right. Let's compare. Yeah. So we write two different ways. One way we do not use exists function. Another way we use exists function. Yeah. So this way, without exist function, here you can see, so we retrieve the first name, last name of employees, and yeah, so this employee satisfied the condition. So what's the condition? The employee's gender, and it has a dependent with the same gender as the employee's gender, sex, okay? Male, female, same. Yeah. So this, yeah. Here we use, let's see. Yeah, oh, another condition, same first name, okay? Same first name and the same sex. Two selection conditions. All right. Yeah, although this question is not hard, yeah, so we do not have to use the exist function, yeah, but as a practice, so let's convert it to a version using exist function, to show you a different way to understand this query. Yeah. All right, so now, look at this version. This time correlated. Correlated, we have an outer query. For the outer query, we only use one table, employee table, okay, E. The dependent table, we put it in the inner query, so we separate it. So it's another table join way. Okay, we split the two tables. One outer table, one inner table. We do not use the table join way. So different way to understand this query. Then in the inner query, we use this exist function. But when we use the exist function, the parameter we pass to this function is an inner query. So select, yeah, this whole inner query. So it's a correlated inner query. So why correlated? Because we need to use this e.ssm from the outer query. From outer query, okay? So when we use this e.ssm from outer query in the inner query, we fix it. Because when you choose one employee from the outer query, then you need to do everything in the inner query. But when you do everything in the query, so you fix this value. Okay? So when you go fix that value for all the rows in the inner query. That's the way you understand the nested correlated query. Yeah. So you go through all the dependent table, all the rows of the dependent table, and you select those rows for that equals e.ssn. So d.essn. Yeah. So first you select that. Okay. So you may have multiple rows selected. Then you compare this condition if E dot F name equals D dot dependent underscore name. If matches, so this condition matches, then you compare E dot sex and D dot sex. If also matches, then you select it. Otherwise, you do not select. Okay? Yeah. Here you can see where this inner query is not empty, then that employee should be selected, right? Yeah. So here you can see the logic is quite straightforward. So this way, the logic is quite straightforward. Exists function. Okay? Yeah, not empty, not empty. Then that employee is selected in the outer query. Yeah? So this is another way to understand your query. Yeah. So you have another useful way, yeah, and a powerful way. Because sometimes some very complex queries you can use this way to write. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So multiple requirements by, right. Yes. All right. Yeah. Yeah. So here, yeah. Because usually one query we may have several different ways to write. Yeah. So usually we want to select the way that we can understand easily. So you don't want to make the logic too complicated to understand. Yeah. When you have multiple ways, so you want to pick the easiest way, yeah, to write. Yeah. All right. Example, not exists function. Question, retrieve the names of employees who have no dependents this time. No dependent. Here, the logic, you auto query, you get a employee. Yeah. So you look at the current employee. Yeah. Then you use the current employee information. You're getting to the inner query, so you want to return all of its dependent, right? All of its dependent. You do an inner query. In the inner query, you want to return all of the dependents. So that inner query is empty. Is empty, but you apply not exists on empty table. It's true. Yeah. So look at that logic. Okay, pretty straightforward. Yeah. Definitely, you can use a different way to write this query statement. Yeah. So you have different way. Yeah, but here, this is one idea. Okay, one method you can use. Yeah. Or you can treat it as a special tool you can use. Okay. And this is a powerful tool, actually. Yeah. So, very powerful. Yeah. All right. Select employee, first name, last name. That's the outer query. Then you get to the inner query. But when you get to the inner query, yeah, SSN equals ESSN. You retrieve all the dependent, and you expect that inner query returns empty result. Yeah. So you're interested in the empty return result. Yeah. So that this not exist function returns true value. Yep. That's simple. Okay. That logic. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty useful. All right, yeah. Another question. Retrieve the name of each employee who works on all the project control. Yeah, so this is the hardest one. Yeah, this is the hardest question in this class. Yeah. Finally, we get to, this is the hardest query of this whole semester. Okay? Yeah. If you can understand this query, so then that's all we need for this class. Yeah. So that's the hardest one. So we will not go harder than this one. Yeah. But to understand this question, it's not that easy. Yeah. Yeah. Because when you need to understand the meaning. Yeah. So the hard part is, the hard part here is, yeah. So let me look at how much time I have today. Yeah. Still, I have some time, yeah. About 15 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. Let's try to understand this question. Yeah. Very hard. Yeah. Although from the statement, you may not feel hard, yeah, but when we go deeper, so you will realize, yeah, it's pretty hard. Yeah. Retrieve the name of each employee who works on all the projects controlled by department number 5. Yeah. First, understand the requirement. Yeah. Requirement. Yeah. All right. So employee names. Yeah. That particular employee satisfies this condition. Yeah. This employee works on several projects, right? Yeah. So we consider all the projects worked by this employee. Yeah. All right. Then the second part of the statement, and so for this employee, there should be a list of projects, right? List of projects. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So we can, for the current employee, let's retrieve the list of all the projects worked by the current employee. So we can use works on table, right? Works underscore on table. So we can retrieve this list. Then the second part of the statement, all these projects, we also know, all these projects controlled by Department 5. Department 5. See? Yeah. Yeah. We know each project is controlled by one particular department. Okay? Yeah. So we can get that information. In the project table, we can see that. In the project table, yeah, so we have the information. Each project is controlled by one particular department. So then we want to check this condition. If all the projects in the list under this particular employee, if all of them are controlled by Department 5. How to represent that? So think about it. Here the question, the hard part is in this all. How to represent all? Okay? How to represent this all the projects? Okay? Yeah. All right? Yeah. So think about that. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So we can use diagram. So yeah. So here we can use diagram to understand. So before we write a statement, yeah, so let's use some simple diagram to understand the relationship. Yeah. Yeah. Here, yeah. So here you can see the answer here. Yeah. So auto query very simple, right? So we go through all the employees. So then we select current employee. Yeah. So current employee. Current employee, so you use the SSN. Yeah. Then Inner query, here you can see we have two inner queries. Query 1, okay? This is the query 1. All right. Then query 2, second query, query 2. Yeah. And we use the set operator, except, yeah, subtraction, right? Remove. Yeah. So here you have two sets, but we remove the elements. Yeah, so here, the two set, we apply this except operator to represent this all, the meaning of all. Yeah, because otherwise it's hard to represent the all. Okay, all controlled by Department 5. All right. Yeah. Yeah. So here, next slide, I want to explain the relationship. Yeah. Yeah. Here. Yeah, because not. So here, use this negation approach. Yeah. When you use the not version, we use the negation thinking. Here we use the negation thinking. Yeah. Usually, when you see the word all, then by experience. Yeah. So we should use the negation thinking to represent this all thing. Yeah. All requirement. Here we need to get used to this negation thinking. Okay? All right. So C.2, negation approach. Let's try to understand this negation approach. Yeah. So let me see how much time I have. Yeah, I still have about 10 minutes. Yeah. So let's look at this negation approach. Yeah. Find the tuple that satisfies some requirement. Find those tuples such that for each tuple, the result that the requirement is not satisfied, empty. Here, see? Yeah. All right. So when we need to do this thing, some requirement, usually the sum requirement contains that all type requirement. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. But how do you represent all requirement? Yeah. So here we use this way. Double negation. Here you see. Yeah, because empty means none, right? Empty means none. So we can treat as another negation, right? Another round negation. Okay? So this time, yeah, you do one negation, not exist. At that place, you do one negation. Empty, yeah, sorry, satisfy is, yeah, so it's that requirement. Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. So you want to say no, not exist. Yeah, actually, the, you know, yeah. Yeah, because not exists, we want to select empty. Yeah. So that negation. Yeah. All right. So that negation. Okay. All right. Not. All right. So then, yeah, let's understand this one. Interpretation here. Yeah. So we want to use a diagram to understand. Yeah. Yeah. Those projects controlled by Department 5, but not worked by, yeah, because if we draw diagram, let's consider all the projects controlled by Department 5, right? So all the projects, those projects controlled by Department 5, yeah. Some of them worked by the current employee, but some of them, yeah, so but not worked by the current employee, form empty set. Yeah. So, yeah, yeah, but yes. So here, those projects controlled by Department 5. but not worked by the current. Under not worked. Yeah, that may not be right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's whole. Yeah. So the understanding of this one. Yeah. Let's later we look at that. So that may not be right. Yeah. So let's look at this understanding page. Yeah. Negation approach. Yeah. Yeah. So here I want to use a diagram to represent this circle. A set represent project controlled by Department 5. Yeah. So Department 5, we can get a list. We list all the project controlled by department. We call it A set. B set, what's the B set? Project worked on by the current employee. So two sets, two lists. Yeah. So we can use inner query. Yeah. The first inner query, second inner query, we can use two inner query to represent these two circles. Then we consider their relationship. A set, B set, what's the relationship? Yeah. All right, yeah. So in one set, we remove all the elements that belong to the second set. Okay, yeah. And this part, A except B. All right, yeah. This part, A except, what's the meaning A except B? Yeah. All right, A except B. All right. Right. So in the A set, all the project controlled by Department 5, then we remove all those that worked by the current employee. Yeah. And after we remove that, it's empty. It's empty, right? That means, yeah, actually, I feel it's the opposite way, right? Yeah, yeah. This place is quite confusing. I feel the opposite way. Yeah. So let's consider B except A. How about that? So let's look at B except A. That's this part, right? B except A. That's this part. So what's that? Yeah. Then, in all the project worked on by the current employee, we remove all the project controlled by Department 5. After we remove this part, all the project controlled by Department 5, then this part becomes empty. Then that means all the project worked by the current employee are all controlled by Department 5, right? Yeah, actually, I feel, based on logic, this version satisfies our requirement. Yeah. Try to understand this point. Yeah. So this is the hardest part. Yeah. So compare these two ways. A except B and B except A. We have these two ways. Yeah. Two different ways to write our inner query part. And which one satisfy the given condition? Yeah. Think about that. Okay? Yeah. If you understand that relationship, so then you understand this whole query. Yeah. So that's the hardest one of this class. Okay? Yeah. So we need to try to understand this example. So then I may make a few similar examples to give you. So in our home assignment number 3, I may give you a few questions. Probably 2 questions. 2 similar questions. So try to get used to this negation thinking. Yeah, use the negation way to represent all. Yeah, because we need to, how to represent that all requirement, all type requirement. Yeah. All right, yeah, so try to understand this one. Yeah, so next time I want to compare these two versions, the meaning of these two versions. What's the difference? Yeah. Okay, yeah. All right, yeah, so that's it. Yeah.